A friend's entitled ex turns into a stalker. Plus updates. Original post. My friend 30 female came to the US from Latin America at 19 as a student. She also started dating her ex 29 male after many years of hanging with each other, both during vacations and online. I knew them both since high school, and they seemed good together. She tried to convince him to move together a few years before their breakup. He was living with his parents who wanted him to leave. At this point, she had already finished college and had a job in the US that granted her a visa, while he had quit college and worked part-time. From what I can gather, he didn't want to leave his parents' place because free food and no rent. So instead, she asked me if I wanted to move with her so we could afford a bigger place. I said yes, and we moved together, adopted a cat and a dog, and pretty much became Grace and Frankie. Around the start of the pandemic, things got bad for them. This is what I was told and what I saw. They never talked or hang out or anything. I was in a breakup at a time myself, so I wasn't really on top since I had my own issues. But my friend cried so much. She didn't even get a happy birthday. After a year of no contact, she assumed the relationship was over. She changed all her social media to single, which he could see, took him off her emergency contacts at work and at her doctor's, and just moved on with her life. This year, my stepdad's health has gone downhill, and my mom needs help caring for him. She works full-time as a therapist. I work from home and my job is very flexible. So I put in the idea of all of us living together, and I'll care for my dad. Eventually, I'll care for my mom too. My mom loved the idea and asked my bestie if she wanted to move with us too so we could all be together. And also because at this point, I can't see myself not being in the same house as her. We've come to terms in being single ladies. Heck, we've joked that one of us should adopt and we become parent/aunt dynamic. But now the joke is more serious since I'm considering it and she's incredibly supportive. No, we're not dating. We're just incredibly close after all the BS we've lived through together. We found a perfect house, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. Enough space, a yard, everything we need. And we got it after a bunch of difficulties and arrangements. Since I don't have immediate plans for adopting yet, I have a ton of paperwork and years of planning ahead. We made the extra room into our office/gaming hub. We both work at the same place, totally not on purpose. They were hiring and we both needed visas. And as proud first-time homeowners, we posted pictures. Her ex, who by this point has been MIA for 3 years, messaged her, saying he was so excited to move into the new house. She told him this was her house with me and my parents, and he said since they were a couple, she should kick me and my parents, so he could move in. I want to point out that my parents bought the house. We, Fred and I, will pay them our parts over the years. And if she decides to move out, I'll finish paying and I'll buy her part out. This is all in paper and signed. So she obviously told him he was not moving in with us, and that he ghosted her, so there was no relationship. He went on a tirade that he never broke up with her, that she was abandoning him, that she never cared about him, etc. I got mad, took the phone from her and told him he could live in a bear cave for all I care, but to leave my friend and our house alone. He went ballistic and began calling us some names, referring to the LGBTQ plus community that would probably get this post flagged. So I'll leave it to your imagination. My friend started crying, and I was absolutely done with him. I never thought he was abusive, but my friend confessed to me that this was not new. He always had issues with the two of us living together and accused her often of cheating on him with me. We ended a call and I told her she needed to block him for her own sanity's sake. She deserves so much better than this man-child. She got me to leave my horrible ex when I was in high school. She took me to the hospital when he beat me up and called my parents. My friend is family, and I'll be dead before I let some bastard with commitment issues make her suffer. Since then, he's gone on a major campaign in our friend group to say my friend abandoned him and left him homeless, since apparently he canceled his lease after he saw we bought a house. He also claims we're lesbian Satanists that probably mistreats our pets and are mooching off my parents. Most of my friends know the story. I know my friend and I moved together at first out of necessity. Then we just don't see ourselves not living together. So yeah, my friend's ex is a nutcase. And if he ever gets close to her again, I will personally give him a free vasectomy. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Wait, so 3 years later, he's like, can't wait to be with my girlfriend I haven't talked to or seen in years? That's next level entitlement. Also next level delusional. Sounds like a form of mental illness or drugs? He canceled his lease after he saw we bought a house. Stop. I laughed so hard that a cat woke from her nap and bolted from the room. Ditch any of the friends that sympathize with him, especially the ones who take his side. Also, you and your friends are goals. Funny enough, no one has so far. Either they don't want to deal with it or just ignore him. They might have already blocked him. That way, he can be in a group but they have no idea. Just to cement the deal, get the cops involved. Submit them the fact that it has been 3 years since they last had a conversation. Phone call, text, online, whatever. And that he is harassing OP's friend. I'm sure something can come out, like a restraining order or something. Not the a-hole. I bet he didn't cancel his lease. I bet his parents kicked him out, which is why he wanted someone else to mooch off of. First update. Hey everyone, a bit quick on the update, but some people ask if our friends knew where the ex was hiding for 3 years, and I was actually curious. Since I was down for the count at work today, I had time to check with my friends and find out more. Apparently, my bestie did ask them, but they didn't know. From what they tell me, he kinda got back into everyone's life in the last year or so, but he was part of the group because they were bestie's friends, not really his. I don't personally know many of his own friends, to be fair. I did track down the ex's sister thanks to social media and poked her for info. She's very nice and always treated my bestie right. I told her what her brother did and her response was very interesting. Apparently, the ex was dating other girls until his parents decided to move outside the US and he's now living in a friend's couch. The last she heard was a couple of days past when they went out for coffee. He was saying he got his brand new house and was going to be moving in this week. As far as she knew, my bestie begged him to take her back and let her live in his house. I did correct her and said that no, bestie's living with me and my parents in our new house. Her reaction was, of course he lied, and just thanked me for letting her know he was talking nonsense. Aside from that, I do want to report we are safe. He doesn't know where we live, and most people don't because we're not really ready to open Pandora's box and having friends come over. We also need time to figure out who we wanted to know. We won't be going to the police unless something serious happens, just because this is technically not a crime. But we are going to keep recordings and printing text conversations. If it tries anything, we have all our papers in order. And just in case, I plan to contact our company's HR so they know the situation. The company we work for can provide us free legal counsel if things get bad. Now for the second update. For a bit, it was actually pretty calm. She did cut contact and block him as many suggested, and between the two of us, my bestie and I did some calling in our friend group of people we knew were passing information to her ex. We've settled in a new house together, and she actually gets along better with my parents sometimes than I do. Guess she's the golden child now. Sadly, eventually we had to adult and get much needed food. We went to Walmart in town together, and by some bad luck, we crossed paths with her ex. I wish all of it was just awkward glances in each other way, but no. At first, they tried to talk to her. My friend said she didn't want to speak to him and didn't want him near her. I mostly reminded him I wanted to rip his spine and beat him to death with it. Sadly, that didn't deter him from following us around, like the most obnoxious toilet paper stuck to shoe. We did our shopping and headed to the car with him still after us. I told my friend for her to get into the car and start the gear and lock it while I loaded the groceries. Her ex then decided to appeal to me to talk to my friend about taking him back. I don't know what power held me back from committing a felony, but pretty sure I've earned a PhD in self-control. I told him, in no uncertain terms, where he could put his reconciliation, and that if he kept following us, I will make sure his legs were out of the equation. I got in the car and my friend began to drive back when we noticed a car following us. And we knew it was following because the direction we were going was not usual. To rule out a possible neighbor, we actually did a full U-turn almost back to the store, stopped to get some fast food, ate in the parking lot, then headed again back home. And the same car was after us. Now, as much as I'd talk of violence, I have to admit I was terrified. So was my friend. Neither of us has a gun permit. At best, we carry a can of pepper spray. And we know her ex does have weapons. So yeah, we were not comfortable at that point. Instead, we headed past our neighborhood. And following the usual advice from TV, drove to the police station. Once in it, we did write a statement and I got scolded about the confrontation in Walmart's parking lot. The reason we knew it's her ex was because when we got home, she got a call from him and a new phone number saying, "I know where you live now." We immediately called the police. So that's where we stand. Cops just left a few minutes ago, and my brother is going to be staying over for a few weeks until we got the RO and some sturdier locks. Also, I want to clarify a few things. A lot of people ask why originally my friend took a whole year of being ghosted to accept the relationship was over. Well, I get it, trust me. Please understand that when my friend came to the US, she had no one. She's cut contact with her toxic family. She literally only had her ex. I moved into the US a year later and also came alone at first. But my parents were able to become citizens and I had them. When her relationship died out, she lost not just her boyfriend, but his family, who pretty much were as close to her own family as she could get. It's not easy, and I personally can't imagine how lonely she felt. I can spend Christmas with my parents. She had no one for that first year. So please, don't judge her on it because she doesn't deserve it. It's not easy to be an immigrant when you have no place to return to. That sounds terrifying. I'm so sorry you had to go through that, OB. I hope you're able to get a restraining order. Best wishes for you four, especially you, OP, and your bestie. No one deserves this kind of psychotic treatment and the fear that comes from it. Maybe think about the reinforced front and back doors, security cameras, and one of the Ring doorbells, so you can see who is outside and talk to them through it. Stay safe. I'm not a security expert, but I would like to pass on a couple of tips. First, before you or your friend get into your cars, always check inside it to make sure nobody's concealed in it, especially at night. Second, when you're shopping anywhere, etc., and you don't feel safe walking to your car, ask the store, mall, restaurant, or other establishment for an escort to your car. The escort must wait until you are inside your car before he or she leaves to go back inside. If the establishment does not provide an escort to your car or is naughty about it, don't do business there again and send them a letter explaining why. A company which does not care about your safety does not deserve your business. With all my heart, I hope things turn out well for you and your friend. Can I add that they get security cameras and a video doorbell? If it comes sneaking around and you have it on film, you can use it to get a restraining order. Also, it means you can check who's at the door before answering it. These things aren't as expensive as you think. Please search for tracking devices on your vehicle. Do this. He's a crazy stalker. Watch out. Not just your vehicle. He may get someone to accidentally bump into one or both of you and slip an AirTag in your jacket pocket, purse, etc. Don't leave your belongings when you're in public and say you have to use the restroom for the same reasons. There is an app called Tracker Detect for this. Had a stalker for a long time, before smartphones, but I downloaded it just the same when I got paranoid again. If you go to your phone's app store, you can search for tracker detectors and download as soon as possible, just to make sure you don't have any. Third update. I wanted to do an update, but I haven't had a time. Thank you all for your well wishes and advice. We're certainly taking measures for security. We're working with the police, who have been absolutely great the whole process, and are helping Bestie to get the RO. For now, we have my brother using our couch. His ex-military has a gun permit, so we feel comfortable with him home. We still have no idea what's going on with my friend's ex. To be sincere, aside from focusing on our safety, I don't have the time to play Scooby-Doo. I did send a message to his sister warning her that we will press charges if he keeps creeping on us. We also did find an AirTag hidden under the car's bumper. It was immediately removed and turned into the police. Other than that, we're doing fairly good, enjoying the space in the yard. And to our new French aunt, we absolutely love to have you as family. Does the ex know where they live now because they passed their house and he somehow recognized it? Or does he think they live in a police station? He doesn't. They didn't get to the house, just the neighborhood before turning around. He's trying to scare her into giving in and needs to lie because he doesn't have an actual reason. Textbook abuser. We went to Walmart in town together and by some bad luck, we crossed paths with her ex. If you're ever in this situation, talk to a staff member, have them get security, and call the police. Tell them a threatening man is following and harassing you. Do not go to the more secluded car park. Do not enter your identifiable car. Deal with it in the store. Definitely do not threaten violence to an unhinged man with access to weapons. You don't know how desperate, angry, or violent he is. Also, if being followed, do not drive home. Drive to the police station and explain what's going on. They will either flee or get spoken to the police. They will not find out where you live. I was getting road raged once and didn't even need to drive to the police station. I just drove to where I knew there was a lot of cop cars and pulled up beside them. Suddenly, all the honking and shouting stopped. They just drove and passed. Doormate had some creepers try to follow her one time she was heading back to her parents' place for Christmas. Stopped to get gas. Noticed this guy staring at her from another pump. Guy followed her into the station and back out, and then followed her onto the interstate. He stayed on her tail as she drove through the city, despite her weaving through traffic, and she called her boyfriend, freaked out, not sure what to do. It took a while, but it got her calmed down enough to get her to hang up and call 911. By then, she was out in the country, upper Midwest. It can go from urban to open country real fast when on the interstate and had no way to dodge the creep. And by then, he was leapfrogging her and getting in front of her, trying to force her to stop via collision. Operator got doormate connected to the nearest highway patrol and they stopped the pair of them. Patrol got her story, instructed her to get off the interstate a few miles ahead and get onto a major highway for a little while, along with his card. She was able to drive off while the cops kept the creepers behind. Ends up he had a female passenger. No idea what happened to them. Hopefully they've found evidence of an attempted kidnapping/trafficking and were able to hold them. She was a little twitchy when she came back after the winter break and was hesitant to go back home for Easter break. The rest of us co-eds on in our dorm got a lot more wary and alert while out on long road trips after that. Update. My 27 male ex-girlfriend, 26 female wants to try again. Original post. My ex-girlfriend and I first got together 6 years ago, and from day one, we got on like 2 peas in a pod. Then after 2.5 years together, she fell pregnant. We had spoken about kids before and we both wanted a family, but not after just 2 years together. We spoke about it a lot and eventually decided to go for it. We also agreed that even if our relationship doesn't last, our child's well-being would always come first. And right before the lockdown in 2020, 3 weeks before the due date, we welcomed a perfect little girl, and both of us were completely infatuated. It was a big adjustment, but our girl was an angel and we settled into parenthood rather quickly. Everything was going great at first, but 3 months later, it all changed. I was working late when I got a text from my mother to tell me my girlfriend dropped our daughter off with her while she ran some errands, but 4 hours later, she had it returned, and now she wasn't answering her phone. I called too, but she didn't answer me either. So I got out of work, collected my daughter, and went home to find a note from my girlfriend. She said that she couldn't handle the stress of lockdown and a baby, and she just needed some time to clear her head. She also said not to call, and that we would talk soon. But days turned to weeks with no contact from her, or anyone else other than her sister who visited her niece often, but never mentioned my girlfriend. Fast forward 3 years, and my ex-girlfriend is slowly starting to reach out again. It was slow at first, liking photos of our girl on Instagram and the odd comment, but that was it. Until last week. She sent me a text saying that she had seen how well our daughter and I are doing and asking if we could meet up. I was reluctant, but we agreed before our daughter was born that her well-being is what mattered the most. So reluctantly, I agreed to meet for a coffee so she can see our girl. But now I'm having second thoughts. How do I forgive her for walking out on me? And more importantly, on our daughter? Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Dude, go to the courts and get child support money. Get full custody. What have you been waiting for? 1. Get a family law attorney. 2. Tell your girlfriend that if she wants to be involved in her child's life, that she will have to petition the courts and start paying you back child support. 3. Do not let her emotionally manipulate you. She abandoned her child. If she did it once, she'll do it again. Cancel the coffee date. Talk to a lawyer. Do exactly what the lawyer says. You are owed child support, and she should have to prove she is stable enough to be in your daughter's life. Because right now, your kid doesn't know her mom. But if she abandons her again, your kid will deal with that trauma for the rest of her life. It's your job to protect this child, even if it's from her own mother. So tell her point blank she has to prove she's worthy of being in your daughter's life, and that she's not going to run away again. So instead of talking this through like a mature person, she decided to ghost you and your baby for 3 years. She was absent for 3 years in your daughter's life, which are some of the most critical from a neurological and emotional development point of view. She just basically abandoned her child, and now wants to sit down and talk like nothing ever happened? She's a trash human being who has zero responsibility for her actions and is completely selfish, only thinking about herself. If you decide to meet up with her, make sure to ask her why she thinks her behavior was acceptable and how she intends to make it right. I don't think I would bring your daughter to this meetup. You and she need to talk about what happened and what's changed, so you can come up with a plan for slowly reintroducing her into your daughter's life while you see whether this is going to stick. Then you can worry about whether there's a future for you as a couple or whether you're better off as co-parents. Now for the first update. As agreed, my ex and I met up a few days ago in a local cafe, and I got there early to try and work out what I was going to say to her after 3 years. While I hadn't mentioned it in my original post, I had no intention of bringing our daughter along. My ex had contact numbers of my family members, so daughter was with a coworker. And when my ex arrived, she was a little disappointed, but not all that surprised to see I was alone. The next few minutes mainly consisted of small talk, before we eventually addressed the enormous elephant in the room, where she had been hiding for 3 years of our daughter's life. She admitted that she'd had suffered a lot of postpartum depression, and she couldn't bear to show it in front of our girl. She acknowledged that leaving the way she did was wrong, but she wanted to be able to focus wholly on herself while she got therapy. I asked why it took her 3 years to resurface. She sent a text for our daughter's first birthday, but that was it. And she broke down admitting that she was so scared of what I'd thought of her for disappearing. In a way, she was right to be scared, because while I could come to terms with being dumped, I was furious because she left our daughter. Throughout our conversation, I could tell she's grown a lot as a person over the last few years, which is something. We spoke for well over an hour, and when I finally got up to leave, she asked where we stood. I told her that I appreciate that she's been really trying to turn over a new leaf, but it's going to take time for me to fully move on. But as a show of good faith, I showed her a video of our girl. It's about 6 or 7 months old, but it's my favorite. It's her and one of my dad's cows mooing at each other. Just before I left, I got her phone number so we can maintain a bit of proper contact rather than through social media, and I agreed to send her a couple of photos of our girl. I appreciate all the advice I got last time, and I'm wondering where my ex and I go from here. My hope is that we can coexist and maintain a healthy friendship for our daughter's sake. But after what happened before, it's hard to fully trust my ex. What do you guys think? Side note, 2 things I didn't mention to my ex. 1, I have zero intentions of rekindling our relationship. I'm open to co-parenting if she can prove she's not going to pull another disappearing act, but that's it. I really loved her once, but I'm a different person now, and that ship is well and truly sailed. 2, at one point I considered putting our girl up for adoption. She was about 9 months at a time. I was mentally and emotionally drained. Work was stressing me out, and coming home to my daughter just didn't give me any joy, as much as I love her. I was going through the process, but one night, I looked in at her in her cot. She looked back at me, and a look on her little face. A cute little smile in her blue eyes shining like I was her whole world. It told me that things would get better, so I canceled the adoption and never looked back. I could tell she's grown a lot as a person over the last few years, which is something. I'd like to adjust your statement and be more precise. In the limited time you talked with her, it seemed she has grown a lot as a person. I'm not contradicting you. I'm not saying she hasn't. Just saying that people can tell nice stories, and reality could be different from what you observed. Yeah, I could have worded it a bit better. Nah, it's an excellent post. Just wanted you to be careful, but it seems you're already doing fine. I'm also a father and know it can be both hard and rewarding. Keep it up, King. Thanks, man. Means a lot to hear that. Your kids are lucky to have someone as supportive as you. You're a dad every kid needs. Nice of you to say, but I feel like I've barely been holding it together, especially since my ex resurfaced. During my divorce, I went through a really rough patch like this myself, barely keeping it together, going through the motions every day, until just one move / one look / one gesture from my daughter snapped me out of this pity party and fog I was in. It turned into enjoyment with her, and my life only being about her. Now I look forward to every minute. Life still throws curveballs and life will always be tough, but it's all about her now. Hope you can find enjoyment in your life, Opie. The little one deserves it. I'm going to suggest that you keep her away from your daughter for now. I don't trust her. I'm a woman and I don't trust her. There is no way in hell I would have left my baby. And I understand why you didn't tell her there's no way you were rekindling it. But in her mind, that means she thinks that there's a possibility you guys are working it out. You've gotten your life together. Do not put your baby in harm's way with this woman. In fact, I would go get custody papers drawn up that you retain 100% of the custody, and she has supervised visitation and no more. Just hold on to it, but just keep your baby out of it. I'm really proud of what you've done. I know it's really hard. There is no way in hell I would have left my baby. I've never been able to understand how she did what she did, and I doubt that I ever will. It seems like going for full custody is the best thing I can do right now. And my daughter is such a sweet little girl, and I plan to let her stay as carefree and fun-loving as she's always been. It hasn't been easy, but it's been such a rewarding experience. Good for you, man. I would have said don't meet her, except the kid changes things. You're clearly putting your daughter first, and that's great. But don't trust this woman. She'll disappear again when it becomes too much. I wouldn't have given her the time of day if it wasn't for our daughter, because she's our daughter at the end of the day. I've also been talking with a friend I went to school with that studies law, and she's given me great advice regarding sole custody. I hadn't really thought about it before, but my brother and his wife suggested it, so my bases are covered regardless of what happens. Second update. It's been a few weeks, so I thought I'd give another update regarding progress with my ex. First off, thanks to everyone for the advice and support. It's been such a huge help. So down to business. Per my ex's request, I accompanied her to a session with her therapist, and she reassured me that she and my ex have made good progress. But she still has some issues to work through, specifically her relationship with her parents. She told me they'd separated, and her mother had a temper, but I didn't know how bad it really was. After the session, my ex left and I hung on for a minute to ask her therapist for her opinion regarding reintroducing my daughter to my ex. She recommended holding off for now and offered me a free session to talk about it, so I'm going to see her next week. On a more positive note, my daughter started preschool 2 weeks ago, is already making friends, and has been absolutely loving life. I sent my ex a few photos of our girl to show some support, so things are looking up. Thanks again to everyone that has commented so far. The support I got has been incredible. Makes the struggle of raising a child alone a little better. Now for some comments before reading the third update. Does your ex know you don't want to get back with her? Not yet. I plan to tell her after the therapy session, but stuff came up that I was never aware of even when we were together, so it didn't feel like the right time. Did she show any desire to get back together? I don't think so, but like I said, it really wasn't the right time. I don't know, bro. She left you to do the heavy lifting. She doesn't get to come back and get away with not doing the work all parents put in. Not saying whether or not I would let the ex in your child's life again, but I would do everything I could to protect my child from the chance of this woman disappearing again, but with my child this time. Now for the third update. I didn't intend to do another update until my ex and I had made good progress, but she made a confession yesterday and I don't know how to handle it. She called me yesterday morning asking if we could meet up since she had something important to tell me. I was off and kiddo was at preschool, so I had half an hour to meet her. Soon after I got there, she asked me about our girl and I told her she was doing well. Moments later, she broke down and told me that she wanted to tell me why she decided to reach out, so that there weren't any secrets between us. She admitted that she had been seeing a guy for about 18 months. I don't know his name, so we'll call him Luke. I was initially angry at the thought of her dating while I was raising our girl alone, but she was in tears, so I held back. She admitted that Luke had taken her to his nephew's christening, and she had a total breakdown at the sight of the baby and the thoughts of our daughter. She apparently got really drunk and broke down in tears before admitting to Luke that she had a child that she had basically abandoned. Apparently, she tried to distance herself from Luke after that, but is stuck with her, and his love and support inspired her to see a therapist and reach out to me. I would have run a mile if I was in his shoes, so he has my respect for helping her through that difficult time. I told her I was glad she told me, and happy that she has someone that is so devoted, before I left to collect kiddo. But now that it has fully sunk in, I can't wrap my head around it. How could she have gone off and dated someone else while I was left with our child? I've started to have second thoughts about her second chance, but since I'm not going to my therapist for another week, I thought I'd share it here to hopefully get some advice. Because while I would like my daughter to know her mother in some capacity anyway, I can't overlook the fact that she was dating someone else while I was raising our daughter by myself. She is bad news for you. The new interest for her child is a little mixed bag, in a way that it could be good for your daughter to have her mother again in the picture, even if you two do not get together again. But at the same time, as Luke is trying to save his relationship with your ex, and she having feelings for her child, she could also try to get custody of her in order to have her back and have a family with Luke. Seek a lawyer and ask what you can do to protect yourself and your daughter, in case she looks for more than what she's telling you. Remember that Luke is not all the way out of her life yet, as he is the reason she's seeking support, and he is still part of her life as well. Lawyer is a must. She abandoned a child for 3 years. I was just coming here to say this. Not once in all these posts does it mention a lawyer. Please protect yourself and your daughter. She has proven she can't be trusted. Dude, come on. The fact that you're even considering letting this parasite back into your life is a problem. She abandoned her child for 3 years, purely because she didn't feel like being a parent. But now that her F-buddy thinks it's a good idea, she wants to try and play mommy again? Cut her off. Legally, she has zero rights to your child since she ditched her. Your daughter will grow up fine without knowing her. Better even. Tell her to try being a parent again with Luke, and make sure not to drop this one when it gets stressful. Stop being an idiot. Don't let her back in. Tell her no and to leave you and your child alone. I know, right? Dude is focusing on the wrong thing. He's all like, she's having boyfriend at all when I was raising our daughter alone. When he should be saying, she's only trying to be in our daughter's life because her new boyfriend is pushing it. What happens when the boyfriend dumps her? Will she just abandon the kid again? Or what if he just stops pushing her to have a relationship with a kid? Will she lose interest? These are the questions OP should be asking. So his love and support did it? And she made it seem like she wanted you back? Is this correct? No way in hell. She doesn't deserve any mercy after abandoning her daughter for 3 years. And if you take her back in your life, you must be insane. She never made it seem like she wanted me back, mainly because it was never going to happen. Frankly, introducing the ex to the kid at this point is not thinking of the well-being of the kid. If she breaks with a current boyfriend, she will spiral again. She is not a mother material. Don't subject the kid to this kind of risk. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my parents to my wedding and anyone from that family? Plus update. Original post. I, 27, and my husband, 28, are going to get married in January. On his side, everyone is invited, but on mine, I only invited my aunt and her husband. When my parents and the rest of my family found out, they caused a ruckus and called me names. But I have justification for what I did. Context. I was the first daughter or granddaughter and niece. I was everyone's spoiled girl until more babies came. And when I was 8, my little sister was born. My grandparents and my mom stopped treating me in a special way. If my sister broke something of mine, she would get punished. But if I called her something, I'd be punished. Once she even broke my glasses and I was punished. My father was present for some time, but then he disappeared. The money was always constant, but not the visits or calls. When I was 11, I was closer to my maternal aunt who lived kilometers away from me than to my uncles, grandparents, and my mother who lived with me. That aunt is 9 years older than me, and she's my mother's half-sister. And even though I only saw her on Christmas, birthdays, and holidays, we spoke 2 times a day on phone calls. One day when I was 12 and she was 21, I decided to spend a summer vacation at her house. Even though my mother did not think my aunts would be able to take care of me, those were the 2 best months of my life. After my vacation, I studied more and was a good student, so they would let me go to her house again. But everything was ruined when my math grades began to go down. Even though I was putting in effort and my aunt even paid for a tutor for me, my grades didn't get better. My aunt came to visit in the middle of the school year and went to see what was happening in school with my mom. It was then that my teacher explained I wasn't paying attention in class because I was very lovey-dovey with a classmate. My mother and aunt were shocked and asked why I was saying this. The teacher then explained that I was a lesbian and my classmate was my girlfriend. And that is an institution, they cannot accept that. It was a religious school. My aunt raised hell and said they'd sue for discrimination, but my mother believed him. When we came home, she hit me and outed me to the entire family. I wasn't a lesbian, and that girlfriend was just a friend. My aunt got in the middle of it and defended me. It was then that my mom kicked me out and told my aunt if she was so into defending me, I could stay with her because I was a shameful person and she would not go through this with the neighbors. My aunt didn't think twice and took me with her and later called my father to tell him. They both made a formal complaint and formally confirmed I'd be staying with my aunt. My grandmother, who lived with my aunt, also shamed me for being supposedly a lesbian, but my aunt who owned the house kicked her out. From that day on, my aunt and her husband, who was then just her boyfriend, took care of me as if I was their daughter. When I was 15, they adopted me. They paid for my college fees and during all that time, made me go to therapy. I must say this all affected me greatly, but the love they gave me helped incredibly. To me, they are my parents, not my aunt and uncle. Now, when my family found out I was to marry a man, they came to me and apologized. And I accepted, but even so, I did not wish to reconnect with them. But they thought with the apology they were more than invited to the wedding. And 2 weeks ago, my mother and grandma came to my dress appointment. I was incensed. They had not been invited, and I kicked them out. They got angry and started insulting me and my husband. I told them that I didn't want them in my life and that I only accepted their apologies for my mental health. Even so, 3 days ago, a cousin of my father called me to ask about the dress code and if kids are okay at the wedding. And I told her that she, along with the rest of that family, was not invited. She got angry with me and minutes later, my father called me to ask who he was giving me to. I told him it would be my father, my uncle, who do that, and he called me a bunch of names. I just simply hanged up. So am I the a-hole? My mom says if I don't want those people in my wedding, she'll support me. But my mother-in-law says family's family no matter what. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You are not the bad one. Your aunt and uncle deserve to be there. Your parents don't. For many reasons, they are bad parents. They kicked you out of their lives. Now they don't deserve to come back. They didn't want to be part of OP's life when she was a child and needed them. Now that they realize she is over them and doesn't want to be part of their lives either, they are mad about it. They don't care about OP or her wedding. They just don't like the shoe being on the other foot. Not the a-hole. It's your wedding. You and your husband decide who is going to be invited. It sounds to me like you have very compelling reasons for not inviting those family members. However, I would advise you to hire security to kick these people out, because I can almost guarantee you that they'll try to show up. Thank you very much. I saw several comments about security, so I will keep that in mind to do it. The last thing I want is for them to break into my wedding. A really fascinating trick would be to do what a couple did a few years ago. Send invites to the wedding to the family, but a date on them is changed to a week later. Someone you trust can meet them at the venue to let them know you are already on the honeymoon. In many places, you can hire a police detail for a wedding. It's a little more than security, but people will take it seriously. If they don't follow officers' orders, they can be arrested, whereas most rude people will feel fine disregarding a security guard. Call the non-emergency number for the police department that operates in the town/district of your wedding venue and/or reception. Ask for the details from the coordinator. Thank you very much. I had no idea about that. I will take it into account and do it. I have all the background of what happened when I was a child, and that can help me. You are amazing. Thanks again. You are doing the right thing. These people are trash. Sure, they apologize to you, but they still feel it was appropriate to disown you and treat you like trash because they're homophobic monsters. If you were gay, they would still be treating you that way. They are bad people and they do not deserve your pity, much less your concern. Let them die mad. Have your aunt send out a blast text to the whole family, telling them they are not invited, and that there will be security at the venue to prevent anyone without an invite from getting in. They don't get to pretend they view you as family when they have spent years making sure you knew exactly how little they thought of you. Tell your future mother-in-law that her family is not your family. No matter what is an insane thing to say about people who abused you. Make sure she understands that this is a hill you will die on, and that your abusers, make sure you use that word, are not going to be allowed to force their way into your life no matter who they share genes with. If future mother-in-law hasn't experienced abuse, she has no business speaking to your situation. Until today, my mother-in-law did not know my real history with them because I did not think it was necessary. But I did it because my aunt/mother told me that it would be good for her to know my reasons. It was a horrible thing for her to know, and now she is totally okay with them coming back into my life. Now for the update. It's been nearly a month since my first post, and I wanted to explain some things that have happened to me. I told my mother-in-law about everything my family did to me in the past. At first, she seemed supportive, but then my husband found out she was still in contact with my parents, and he decided to cut her off. He advised her that if she continued down this path, she'd never meet future grandchildren. He also told her that the only way she'd be able to come back into our lives was if she apologized to meet my adoptive parents. He also told his father and brothers that if they tried to intervene between us, my family and his mother, they'd also be cut off from our lives, and that of our future kids. One thing I did not mention was everything around my father and my sister. Turns out, after my father decided he couldn't take care of me and let me go live with my aunt, he and my mother got back together and had a son. My sister thought I lived with my dad, and I thought she had a much better life. But as I've found out, my ex-family mistreated her day and night. They basically had her kidnapped, and she couldn't use the phone or the internet, even though she is not a minor. When we found out, we went to get her. I must say it wasn't the best way. We followed her until we found her uni. There, we kind of ambushed her and asked her to come with us. She was very happy to see us and came with us. Together, we talked about it all. We apologized to each other and told everything. We both were victims of our parents. Right now, my adoptive parents are fighting for custody of our little brother. With my sisters and mine's witness statements, we hope to win. We also got my sister therapy to help her a bit with all of the trauma. As for my wedding, we decided to rush it and have a small wedding. With only my adoptive parents, my siblings, my parents had a few more kids, some friends, and my husband's father and brother. We told no one to have no surprises. Thank you for your advice and support. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being mad that my boyfriend's ex-wife ruined my birthday plans? I'm a 38-year-old female. Been with my boyfriend for 4 years now. His ex has always been an issue, but we deal with it. He has a 14-year-old son. I don't have much of a relationship with him because his mom doesn't like the fact that his dad moved on after the divorce and she hasn't. She was caught cheating by the way, and the man she cheated with went back to his wife, so she is bitter towards us. Now, my boyfriend and I have been making plans for my birthday. We planned a date together, going on a short road trip and then dinner. My boyfriend already told his ex that he would be out of town that day if their son needed anything. Everything was fine, up until that morning. He gets a call that his son's mother has decided to go out of town and she was dropping their son off. I asked him to inform her that we had plans as discussed previous, and she needs to adhere to the plans. It was her weekend to have him anyway. My boyfriend refused. Any other time, I tell him his kids come first, but this was my day. My one day out of the year that I asked to be accommodated. I never ask for anything during the holidays. This is just my day. His son gets bored easily and is constantly complaining, so the entire day will be miserable with him constantly waiting to go home. My boyfriend asked if we could reschedule, and I told him no. This is the one time I ask him to do for me and he can't? I told him to have a great day with his son. I was going to celebrate by myself. He got mad and said I was not being fair. I explained to him that it isn't fair for him to cower down to his ex-wife and stick the plans. She knew we were going out of town. So I left and did my own thing by myself. Am I the a-hole for celebrating my birthday without him? Now for the top comments. Why tell her plans so she can ruin them? He's 14, not an infant. I dump him for this. Exactly. It wasn't even their weekend. I get letting her know in case of emergency, but send a text after you are already there. That depends, because if there is a legal custody structure, then part of the agreement might be advance notice about going out of town / restrictions and availability in case of emergency. It might also require that if there's an emergency and or something comes up, then he has to take his son or she can fight to make him lose rights, which would give her more leverage to make his life and his relationship miserable by holding their son over his head. In my situation, my mother had custody, but my neglectful father and stepmom, whose oldest son was her golden child, and her husband and younger son still came before me by far, would fight for custody of me and plays lots of games, including tricking me and trying to poison me against my mother. So trust me, without more information, we can't actually know why he said no and asked to reschedule. At least he knew what his son is like and didn't ask to include him in OP's birthday plans, right? Sorry, but mom is responsible for making arrangements for the child. Dad may have first opportunity, but is not obligated to be mom's backup plan. Dad got played by mom. Girlfriend is entitled to be mad, but mom has been frustrating / interfering girlfriend's relationship with dad for a while. Dad isn't likely to change at this point, and so girlfriend's option is to live with this likelihood or move on. Good luck. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Since it was her weekend to have the kid, she did it on purpose. She did. She always does this. But I thought being that it was my birthday and the only time I asked for something, he would understand. The only reason she did this is because your boyfriend allowed her to. He should have stood firm. It was her weekend. She knew you guys had plans and she's being manipulative. You don't have an ex-wife problem. You have a boyfriend problem. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my son's half-sibling's mother half the money their father sends me? I have a son with a man named Michael. Michael has 2 children with a woman named Kathleen. Neither of us is currently in a relationship with Michael and don't exactly know where he is because he moves around a lot. Kathleen and I, as well as Michael's parents, do keep in touch for the kids. Every month, Michael will send me money through his friend. Given Michael's disdain for her and her financial difficulties, I assumed that he was not sending her any money. I didn't want to seem like I was bragging or anything, so I never brought up the money that Michael was sending me. Apparently, she always assumed I had a high-paying job. I'd only recently found out from Michael's parents that was not true, and it came to light that Michael was sending me money. So now, she wants me to give her half the money that Michael is sending me. She even suggested she was being generous, since she should really get 2/3, since she has 2 kids with Michael and I only have 1. The thing is, giving away half the money would really be a big financial blow to me and my son. It would mean a drastic change in our lifestyle, and we would have to move. I also wouldn't be able to put aside any more money for emergencies or for his future education. So far, I only have a small amount saved, but by the time he's 18, it should be a good amount to get him started. I do realize this is unfair to Kathleen and her kids, but as my son's mother, I do feel like it's my job to put him first and set him up for the best future I can. Ultimately, I think we can all agree that Michael is the main a-hole here, but I wonder if I'm too. I can live with it if I'm being an a-hole too, but maybe knowing how much I am will help me with how I further interact with Kathleen. Edit. It keeps being brought up, so I thought I should add that I do have a child support order. So does Kathleen. Kathleen hasn't been able to enforce hers because Michael gets paid under the table and doesn't have a bank account. Not the a-hole. Kathleen needs to settle this with Michael, not you. Exactly. OP is not being unfair to Kathleen. Michael is. and she can take him to court. OP, it is not your job to provide for Michael's other children. That's his job, not the a-hole. Exactly. OP only has responsibility to her son, and not to Kathleen and her children. While I understand it's not fair in Kathleen or her kids, it doesn't give her an excuse to behave entitled towards OP. Not the a-hole, OP. Just take care of your child and don't mind Kathleen. Not the a-hole. This has nothing to do with you, and is 100% a matter between her and the guy she has 2 kids with. If she does go to court, it would be against him, not you. Technically, you have 0 reasons to even communicate with her. However, you are getting money through the guy's friend, so that's not exactly reliable. I would not be basing my current lifestyle around such a nebulous source of money that could go away entirely at any point. This, OMG. That friend could be skimming some of it off the top already. True, but it's also just as possible that they aren't, or even coming through and supplying the cash, even when Michael is short/late/doesn't send it. It's good to be skeptical, but there are still some good people left in the world. If she is receiving the court-ordered amount, it doesn't matter. He apparently doesn't want his address or bank info available to her.